That is terrific. Yes. If it brings you anywhere near Cleveland, let me know.
I will. I will. I doubt that it will. I think this is going to be go across the state line and come back.
Yep, understood.
You know,
You can check that one off then.
That one
Win
off.
in
Check
Ohio.
that one off.
Yep.
Yes. So
it's fun. We have, I forget what it was for, maybe her birthday or maybe last Christmas, but Susan, my wife, got a poster of all of the national parks. We love.
Yes, I looked at those last Christmas. I almost bought one of those last Christmas.
They're scratch off so that each one is covered. But if you go to it, you can take a coin and go and scratch it off, and it shows you the picture. So that was one of our reasons for going to Colorado this past month. Is
so
that it has.
Okay, so which parks did you go to?
It has 4 national parks in Colorado, and we did all of them. And actually going to them, it's a square state. It takes you completely around the state to go to each of them. We flew into Denver, and so went to Rocky Mountain National Park, which is just outside Estes Park, and that was really fun. And
it is gorgeous.
It is
so
absolutely amazing. Did some great hiking and backcountry hiking there, and then went to a national park that I never even heard the name of before, the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, which is remarkable. I mean, it is very reminiscent of the Grand Canyon, but
I haven't been there either. I don't know how.
Rock. It is just stunning. And then went to Mesa Verde, which I've always wanted to see, with the ancient Native American ruins. Those were, I have to admit, you walk on this long trail getting there, and it's only guided. You can't go there yourself. And you walk on this long trail, and you sort of come around a curve, and there are the ruins. I started crying when I saw that.
It's amazing.
I mean, it was just so unbelievably moving. It was just great. And then the last one that we went to, which in many ways was the weirdest of them all, which I'd also never heard of, was the
Hovenweep. Did you go to Hovenweep?
No, Great Sand Dunes National
Park. Oh, okay.
It is the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, you have sand dunes as big as mountains.
Right. I've seen pictures of it.
Oh.
But there is another one that if you I'm trying to think, after when we went to Mesa Verde, we were headed from there to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And we went to one called Hovenweep, which is weird too, and a very and very old.
Yeah.
Kind of, in some ways a little like Mesa Verde, but really strange place, and nobody there. It was just deserted. It was great. When we were at Mesa Verde, we asked the ranger, we wanted a fairly short hike without a lot of ups and downs, and she said, "Well, the Petroglyph Point hike is."
Oh my God!
Oh God! It's If you figure.
It was one of the best hikes we took, but there's lots.
But it's not, and it's a hard hike.
It is. It's
climbing down through those, between the rocks with a backpack on.
Absolutely.
And when you get to where you have to climb up on that huge rock.
Yep, you're climbing boulders doing it.
We were with there was another couple, a much younger couple than we were, that walked with us for a while, and Bob climbed up on the big rock first, and he reached down to help me up, and I felt this hand on my rear. Oh. And the lady said, "I'm not getting fresh. I'm just going to boost you." And once you get up to the top, it's fine. That amazing. Last little climb is unbelievable.
We did it also. I recommend the hike. It's a spectacular.
It is.
The hike is like an A+. The petroglyphs are kind of a B-.
Well, they were a little bit of a disappointment.
They weren't so great, but the hike itself was really exciting.
The petroglyphs at Capitol Reef are really, I think, a lot better.
Yeah.
And even the ones, where else? At Petrified Forest, there are some good ones. Some good ones. But they were a little bit of a disappointment. But the hike itself was incredible.
The hike was
it really was.
That's great. I'm so glad that you did that. That was a good one.
Yeah. That was good. Did you go to Canyon de Chelly while you were
we
out there?
We have been to Canyon de
Okay.
Chelly and really love that as well.
Yeah, we walked down into it, and you get down there, and suddenly there are people everywhere, and jeeps and trucks.
Yep.
But you come down this really scary in places, where the ledge is just a drop off.
Yep.
I don't do well on those.
Yeah.
But you get down there, and suddenly, it's civilization, but you're not allowed to go that way. You have to climb down. I don't know. Well, I think we have reached our
sounds good
time. Welcome to the Rare Book Cafe, the book lovers' rendezvous, where the topics are priceless and the conversation is free. We're the only weekly internet program devoted entirely to rare and collectible books and the people who love them, and that's you. We are available every Saturday beginning at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, and 5:30 Greenwich Mean Time on Facebook, YouTube, and as a podcast as Rare Book Cafe Raw, wherever you get your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Lee Linn of the Ridge Books in Calhoun, Georgia. My first guest today is Larry Rakow from Wonderland Books in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And he's going to talk to us about the things that grow up around collecting children's books, the marginalia, the ephemera, all of those little extras that collectors fall prey to, I'm sure. So we'll turn it over to you, Larry. And we're so glad you're back from your Colorado trip. And we know that you and Susan had a great time.
We had a wonderful time. Right on the heels, actually, of returning from the Colorado trip was my mom's 100th birthday. So we've been busy with birthday parties for her ever since also. It's been a great time. It really has. And I do want to talk about the marginalia that you referred to in the ephemera. And have a little show to go with it. But first, I did want to mention the loss of two really major figures in the children's book world during the last couple of weeks. The first of whom was Gary Paulsen. Paulsen is familiar to young adult readers and won, I think, several Newbery honors for Hatchet and Dog Song. As well as books like this, The Winter Room, and others. A lot of his books were adventures, took place out in the wild. Hatchet, which is particularly well named, was How to Survive in the Wild with Only a Hatchet. And he was a much beloved and very well known figure in young adult literature. I was almost going to say more so, but that's just because of personal preferences. We just lost really a giant in the world of children's illustration. Jerry Pinkney worked first in advertising and then was drawn into children's books, in which he championed, really for one of the first times, extremely positive depictions of African Americans, drawing heavily on African American folklore and contemporary issues as well. Jerry just changed the field of children's literature. I just pulled a couple of books off the shelf that might be known. This written by Virginia Hamilton, another major author. Jerry illustrated Dries Longo. One of my favorites, Morandi and Brother Wind, is another one of his. And perhaps one of the most controversial that he did, or at least courageous that he did, was a number of years ago. He actually took Little Black Sambo, one of those books that is well known to virtually everybody who is involved in children's literature, but over the years has, because of the illustrations attributed to it and because of the term Sambo, has just simply fallen by the wayside. And he and Julius Lester, a wonderful author, decided to resurrect that book and call it Sam and the Tigers, and present it in a totally contemporary, humorous, and non-stereotypical way. And several of his books won Caldecott honors, and just finally, and what was it, just a couple of years ago, this book, The Lion and the Mouse won the Caldecott. And as I said, just two figures in children's literature who are going to be sorely, sorely missed. Anyway, moving on to today's topic. I once asked somebody, a major collector in this area, how do you decide what to collect? And he's a smart guy. And he said, find something that no one else is collecting that you love and go really, really deeply into it. And that way you become the person to go to as far as a single, sometimes very narrow field of interest is concerned. And I really I took that to heart. Not that the field that I particularly love, pop-ups and movables, is particularly rare in the collecting field. Loads of people love that sort of thing, but it's the kind of thing that I decided to really delve into. And when you delve into something deeply enough, you start coming up with all the little things that surround the books themselves. It's not the books, it's not the honor books, it's not even signed books. It's merchandise sometimes, it's things that publishers go and issue that just expand your understanding, in this case, of children's literature. But this is true for any collecting interest. So I thought that today I would show you a couple of things from my own collection which is children's books, that fall into this marginalia or ephemera. Ephemera is a term that I'm sure most folks are familiar with, but essentially it means those things that were really meant to be consumed, that were created. Nobody expected these things to last. They were just created and expected to disappear into the off the sides of the screen. So let me see if I can do this. We're going to try to bring something up here again. Collecting at the margins. We're going to talk about some of these things: posters, buttons, letters, other ephemera. One of the things that I have really enjoyed putting a collection together of are book-related posters. In my case, children's book-related posters. And I actually offered a catalog of these, about a year, maybe a year and a half ago or so. And loads of people responded to them because, number one, they are so rare and folks haven't really seen them. And number two, they are something you can hang up on your wall and have other people appreciate as well. Sometimes it's difficult sharing our enthusiasm for books, but art like this really, really goes well. Here's one from Book Week. Now, Book Week, Children's Book Week, is over 100 years old now. And interestingly, every single year for Children's Book Week from 1920 on, they have had a noted illustrator create a poster for that event. And some of them, especially the ones early on, were not done by children's illustrators, but starting in the late 40s and early 50s, that went to children's illustrators. Here's one, for instance, that Fyodor Rozhenkovsky did for Book Week in 1959. And if you are really, really into collecting Book Week posters, it is possible to put together an entire collection, though many of them are quite expensive. They do this to date, so that if you're interested in acquiring one for 2021, I'm certain that it will be available. You need to write to the Children's Book Council or find a bookstore that's willing to go and give you one, and they are quite lovely. But they are not the only ones that were created, that is, for Children's Book Week. There are others that are equally collectible. I'm thinking of something like this, the Children's Spring Book Festival posters, which were sponsored by and really distributed by the Herald Tribune in New York. There was a time during the 40s and 50s that the Children's Spring Book Festival and the books awarded during that festival really went almost hand in hand with the Newbery and Caldecott Awards. They were considered that important by the publishing industry. But here's a wonderful poster, obviously based on Harold and his Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. This one was created in 1958 for the Children's Spring Book Festival. And last but not least, another New York-based, but with wide appeal, was New York is Book Country. This was a remarkable festival that was held on Fifth Avenue. They actually closed down, 3 or 4 blocks of Fifth Avenue, and virtually every single publisher and book dealer in New York City would come out, set up booths, and there would be tens of thousands of people who would march up and down Fifth Avenue and look at books and buy books and book-related materials. This poster from 1985, I'm sure many people recognize the style, was done by Keith Haring, major graffiti and outsider artist. This one for New York is Book Country in 1985. And ones like this, because of the artist himself, is a very, very expensive poster to purchase, usually in the, between $500 and $1,000 for a poster like this. But there are other things as well as posters. Everybody who has gone to a library conference or an elementary school conference, I'm sure, has come back with some pins like these. This is for the Very Hungry Caterpillar. There's a Strega Nona, another one that was created by Dr. Seuss. And pins like these are often distributed by publishers around a publication of a single book. Here's sort of a Christmas card that Tommy DePola sent out to many of us. This goes back to 1991, and he's talking about his book, Jingle, the Christmas Clown, that was coming out, and he gave away a free Jingle button. Or something like this, Crazy for Maisie, which on the back of this cardboard backing has lots of interesting information about the character Maisie. And it also includes, in this case, tied onto her tail, a button that kids or librarians could wear. Or even things like this, not buttons per se, but this was given out with Hello Red Fox by Eric Carle. These are stickers that could be taken off and applied to bookmarks or greeting cards or envelopes or whatever. Catalogues are a really interesting adjunct to collecting. And one of those things that it is not easy to find on the internet. I'm not talking about purchasing them. I'm talking about the kind of information that they include. Being able to track down a book to a certain year, inserts of short biographies of the illustrators and authors who created the books, and sometimes just for their beautiful cover art. This one from 1931 is from a series called The Gateway to Bookland that was distributed to various stores that were selling books and given out to potential customers to decide, in this case, what an appropriate book for a child might be come the holidays. There are some really striking cover designs on book catalogs, something like this, A Merry Christmas from Macmillan Books, 1937, with a great Santa on the cover and a snow scene. Or something a little bit more constrained, this from Samuel Gabriel and Sons, a publisher in New York, which is really a lovely, lovely little vignette of a mother reading to her children and the family dog, and includes books, toys, dolls, and games created by that publisher. You know, it is so easy to get letters from illustrators or authors who you really like. I know that, the whole idea of autograph collecting really falls into a different category, but my gosh, there was a time that I owned a company that worked with a lot of children's illustrators, and I must have 50 handwritten letters from Bill Peet on various topics, as well as many of the other 80 or so illustrators, that it's just a matter of finding out their address, which is often common now that we have Google available to us, and writing them, telling them how much you love their books and asking for a reply of some kind. And a step up from that comes with original artwork. Over the years, for illustrators whose work I've really appreciated, I wish I could show you a picture of my office right now, which is just filled with artwork of this kind. In this case, from James Marshall, from a book called Rapscallion Jones. but just beautiful things that are available and often nowhere as expensive as one might think. Develop a relationship with an illustrator and tell them how much you would appreciate receiving something that you can hang on your wall and look at every day and remember them. And then there are all different kinds of other ephemera, including from the U.S. Postal Service. I don't know how many of you remember this, but this was a great series of stamps called Favorite Children's Book Animals. They have had other ones that parallel this sort of thing. And I have these framed and hanging up on my wall, along with Ezra Jack Keats' Snowy Day and other things. Around Christmas time, we tend to decorate with snow globes. And I have a wonderful collection of snow globes, including this one of Stregonona. I have one of Madeline and other children's book favorites.
I noticed behind you, hanging from your bookcase, that there was a line of
those are
over to your right.
Yeah.
That bookcase, that there were some buttons.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah, there are lots of buttons and various things that I have to admit I am just a junk collector, and I'll get out of the way here. But a lot of those illustrations up there are original illustrations. This one, can I do this? Let's see. There we go. This one here is a Trina Shard Hyman. I think this is Arnold Lobel and Louis Wayne. There are lots of original children's book illustrations in the office as well. So yeah, it's great. It's it's all of those things that we really don't think about much when we're putting a collection of books together, but that as we get deeper and deeper into it, we tend to start collecting things on the side. Yeah.
Things, yes. Well, a couple of years ago, I was looking for a book about skeletons for my grandson, because he's really into skeletons, and found one, wrote the author. He signed that for James. He signed another book for my granddaughter. He sent me a signed print of one of the illustrations from his book, which I have framed. And then this year, I got another book from him for a friend's daughter for her first birthday. And the response was immediate. And
I think, Lee, we tend to forget that most authors, most illustrators work by themselves. It is a very solitary job that they're doing.
Yes.
And especially during times like this, during COVID times, when all of the bookstore signings and appearances have been completely negated, that how much it really means to an author or illustrator to hear from the public, to hear from somebody who appreciates their work. And even for the most notable illustrators and authors, I think it is something that just keeps the pot boiling. We need to go and tell them how much we love what they're doing, and they often respond in kind.
Yeah. Well, years and years ago, when I first started directing a preschool, we would have state workshops for the Georgia Preschool Association, and we always had authors of children's books who were there to talk about their books and give us books and give us bookmarks and pens and things like that.
Yes.
And we're so accessible, they would stay after the workshop and talk to people and that kind of thing. And it was always so much fun. And I think that's true of other authors as well. Children's authors maybe more than a lot of others, but because so much of their work, I think, is designed to connect with people. And I think some authors of adult things aren't so much worried about connecting with other people as they are about getting their vision, out there. That may not be true, but sometimes it seems like it is. But children's books are a lot more fun, I think.
They are.
Yes. Our book club met last night, and we were setting up a schedule for the next few months. And one of our members said, "I'm so tired of reading depressing things. Let's read something funny."
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's been an issue lately with a lot of us. We're tired of depressing things. But
righto.
Yeah. But that's a thing. And what you said about sometimes if you narrow your your collecting interest
Mhm.
down enough, you can really find some bargains.
You really can.
Of course, then that may change over time. Maybe 12, 13 years ago, we started buying Holloway House publications.
Yeah.
And at that time, they weren't easy to find. But when you did find them, they were not that expensive.
Yeah.
But now, Holloway House collections are being put together by major university libraries. I can't find replacements for the better known writers of that publishing company.
Yeah.
It's just changed enormously in 15 years. From what seemed like a comfortable little niche that we could do to now that I'm competing with major collectors.
Yes.
For every book. So yeah, things do change over the years.
They do. They change, and the truth of the matter is I know that things go up and things go down.
And they go down.
That were looked at as unbelievably collectible and expensive, can within the course of a decade or two just lose their push. They just go down for reasons that we don't really understand. I remember when the Bridges of Madison County was such collectible at one point, and not so much anymore.
Yeah, it is. And I think, and sometimes that's very true of more modern writers that suddenly seem to be very sought after and very expensive. They've won an award or two, and then their prices just plummet.
Yep.
And you may be left with a shelf full.
Two shelves full. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Well, look who's joined us.
Hooray.
Well, hello. I have to tell you, I was going to be here earlier, but I was having a problem with Airbnb. And 2 hours later, I think we've come to the conclusion we don't know what the problem is.
Oh. Solved that one.
Yeah, but we did accomplish a couple things. So at least I was able to make a reservation that I couldn't make before. So that was good. So,
well, that's good.
I tell you, it's the road warrior's woes is what that is.
Well, have you managed to hear any of Larry's discussion?
Well, actually, I was just hearing the end of it, and besides the Bridges of Madison County, I was thinking back to the time at one point I personally was driving the market on the internet with Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, and I've sold that book for very good numbers, but today those numbers have just vanished, totally vanished.
Yeah.
So
well, when the second True Grit movie came out, we had sold a nice first of the book, a signed first, for a nice amount, and found another copy and thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a really easy sell. It's still sitting up there. If anybody's interested, it's still there. Very nice copy. So that happens. But we've been talking about collecting children's book marginalia, and I know that you have a lot of stuff like that in your puzzles and all that.
I'll share a quick little story. One of my good customers, and he may be one of yours too, Larry, because he gets around, is probably the largest collector of Alice in Wonderland in the world. You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
And he's told me that he has 4,000 versions of Alice.
Wow.
God.
Process that number.
Wow. When we were talking about very focused, very slim collections, that nobody else really has interest in. Right. My favorite one is a local collector who I have a great deal of respect for, who only collects, let me see how I can put this. He collects children's books, but only by adult authors and only if they've published one children's book. If they publish a second one, then the first one goes out of the collection. It is only children's books by adult authors, one-time children's books. That's it.
And how many of those are there?
He has quite a collection. He really does. Yeah,
so let me ask this question. Would he be interested in a manuscript copy of a book that there are no copies of online, or can I find any other titles by this author?
And it's a children's book.
Yes, it's a children's book.
And it's by a known adult author.
I believe it's an adult author, but it's old. It's an older book. I came into this copy 20 plus years ago.
Oh my gosh.
From a dealer in New Hampshire who sold it to me, and she was handling an estate or something for family. I don't remember all the details, but a year later she wanted to buy it back because the family wanted it.
Oh gosh.
But I didn't sell it because I bought it legitimately, and I decided to keep it. I probably should have sold it back, but I wanted more money than she was going to give me.
Wow.
Yep. But,
incredible. Yeah, it all comes around. When I think of visiting your booths at shows, Richard, I think about often the ephemera that is included, as well as really solid books.
Yeah.
And I think that both of us over time have just amassed large numbers of puzzles and stickers and buttons and all the things that go around.
Well, the obvious for me, Tasha Tudor.
Yeah.
Besides, I worked with her twice.
Yeah.
The second time I worked with her and both her daughters. I had a wonderful relationship. I treasure those moments still. And but it opened me up to a wide variety of different things. I have her porcelains that she did for the Little Women, which I think truthfully are under market at this point in time. I have her puzzles, again, out of several of her books. There are 4 sets of 4 puzzles each, so that's 16 puzzles. And I think those are underpriced in the market because they're so rare. But here's one of the things that very few people know about her. She actually, in the 50s, illustrated a box, and I don't have it handy, but I do have one, called Diaperine, and it was a company in New Hampshire, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, that was a diaper service. And in the box there was a little can of baby powder, a little packet of cream for the baby's bottom, and something else. There's like 3 or 4 things in this little, and the cover, and it was a book cover styled box, so that the cover opened up like a book, and these items were in the cover sides are illustrated by Tasha Tudor.
Wow.
Very rare, scarce piece.
Wow.
And the irony of it is, I found one, now this is going back 25 years, I found one in, I think, a flea market. And I have a friend in Denver who I'm still close friends with, but at the time we were very close friends and doing a lot of business together. And she found one in Denver.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
And it's the only 2 either of us have ever seen or known about.
Wow.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. And I mean, I've never put it out for sale.
Yeah.
It's really a remarkable piece. It's in the prime time, in the 50s. That's kind of when Tasha is really starting to come in. She hasn't quite peaked, but she's really developing a following in that period. And she's done her Calico books, and she's done 4 or 5 other books by Oxford Press. So things are really heating up for her. And then there's this one advertising piece for a local company.
Well, we have a question that our esteemed producer has asked, which is, what do we all have that we will never sell? Ooh.
I've had actually several things myself. I don't know about you, Larry, but when I started collecting, I was collecting Boy Scout books as a young boy, starting at age 12. And by the time I hit my 20s, I decided maybe maybe I should collect the Boy Scout handbooks. Now, this has been the period of time where there were no reference books, there was no internet, there was no specialists in Boy Scout stuff to be found. There wasn't even a list of Boy Scout books that you should go after. It was, but I started, and in those days, I was paying 25 and 50 cents a book, so it didn't, I'd buy $5, $5, I'd go home with a box of books. And gradually I did start in the 80s. I started to refine my collection and get a little smarter about it. And I did start spending more money for books by then. And I eventually, in the 90s, I knew that the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scouts would be in 2010. And I said, I'm going to put the collection together and sell it in 2010 because I figured that would be peak of the market.
Yeah.
And I was missing one or two pieces that were really primary that I had tried for years to buy at auction other places, and in the 2000 was a little smarter, and I had cash, and I would try to buy things that were going to cost money, and I eventually found those pieces, and by 2000, and that was like in 2009, and in 2010 I eventually put it out on a bullet on an email list I was on, and a dealer in California ended up buying it from me for a lot of money, and it was less. And I only had the first printings of all the editions, and there were like 12 editions at that time. Plus, I had other key important items that related specifically that going back to 07 and 08, which were extremely rare. And I sold it for a lot of money. But it was the one thing that at the time I actually thought about it, but it's still the core of what would have been my collection.
Yeah. Absolutely. Lee, what do you have?
Well, I'm not sure. When we first started doing the books, my late husband was always reluctant to get rid of anything. And I thought this is going to be a real hard row to hoe because he ain't going to want to sell anything. But he discovered that once he's had something for a while, he didn't mind letting it go. And I never minded letting it go for the right price. And so while I have several shelves of primarily Georgia related books like Dead Towns of Georgia and some of the Georgia histories that at the moment are not for sale, I think that they could be. What I won't let go, and y'all know me well enough to know about the folk art collecting, is that I have pieces of art that I would not sell.
Yeah.
Primarily things primarily by my son, but also by like Howard Finster, that I would not sell. Nice. And probably more so than the books. But I have over 20 years, adopted that. Well, I've enjoyed the book. I've had it. It's been mine, and someone else can, and especially the older I get.
Yeah.
The older I get.
Yeah.
So
I think that is a key, and it's something that I think each of us as dealers had to. I'm making some generalizations here, but I believe that many of us at one point or another in our lives were just as fervent collectors as we were dealers. I mean, we were drawn to this field because we love the kind of materials that we now deal in. It was very difficult for me to sort of turn that key, to get to the point where I was willing to even sell the first book I ever sold. I found it, I loved it, and the idea of selling it was just anathema. But but once you turn that key, I think that a very healthy attitude such as that you just said, Lee, where you can really enjoy books for a long time, but you're just a placeholder for a while, and eventually they're going to go somewhere else. I think there are probably several things that I would say now that I would never sell, but the two things that come to mind immediately. Number one, are my wife and my Woodstock tickets, which we still have. Never collected them because the weight came down, and I don't know who would want them, but that's one thing. I'm going to stand up for one moment and get something from the wall because I'll.
So
I'll
while you're doing that, you can hear me, Larry? While you're doing that,
yes.
If you need more Woodstock tickets, let me know. I had a buddy. Honestly, God, I had a buddy who lived right near Woodstock, and he trash picked 1,000 of the tickets and sold them over the years.
Does he have any of the original posters and that kind of thing?
No. He's since died. He's since died. But he when eBay started, he lived off of those ticket sales on eBay.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
wow.
He had that. Matter of fact, most of the ones that are in circulation, I promise you,
are his.
Came from him.
Are his.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, and I think
he dumpster picked. He dumpster picked them.
I think like you talked about your Boy Scout things. We put together a nice collection of Flannery O'Connor books back starting a number of years ago, and then decided in about 2018 that we were going to sell them. And so we started selling them. And I now have, because people keep asking me, do I have? And I'm down to like 2 copies of Wise Blood, and that's about it. I almost regret that all of them have been sold.
Yep.
Because I could not put that kind of collection together again, very easily or very economically. But what was I going to do with them? And selling them made it possible to buy other things.
Absolutely. I think that we all have, if we were asked, what we most regret that we have sold, we'd each have something that we would have liked to have held on to for a little bit longer. What I took down from the wall was, I'm without going into boring detail, I've had several businesses prior to Wonderland Books, and they primarily dealt with children's illustrators and others, and some very wonderful, prominent people. And we worked for a long time with Sandra Boynton, who I really loved, and just the queen of all greeting cards and everything else. And at any rate, we used to have great phone conversations. And one day I got this, which I hang up on my wall, and it's an original illustration by Sandra of this wonderful hippo. And it says, "This coveted Golden Hippo Award is presented to Larry Rakow for his achievement in Très Belle Lettre and pretty good phone calls too." And it's dated 1994. So I have this in my office, and I would never sell it because nobody else would want it, but I look at it every day, and I'm happier because of it.
Yes, my younger son's bedroom had Sandra Boynton dinosaur wallpaper borders.
Yes,
for many years.
Yes. Yeah, very cool.
Years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has certainly been an interesting conversation. We do tend to ramble on and get off on topics, so we probably need to go ahead and continue with the show. But thank you. Stick around if you can. We're going to introduce David Hess, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our book club meeting last night, and we'll see how much time we have left then. And Richard, at the end of the show, I think you and I Alan said I have some new material that you might have some new material that we might share a little bit on that.
Okay.
So
it's been a pleasure as always. Bye, Lee.
Thank you.
Richard,
if
see you on the road someday.
If I get over that way, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Larry, I'm gonna be in Syracuse, New York, the third weekend of November, and the last weekend of November, Columbus, Ohio.
Whoa, nice. Well, if you feel like taking a 2-hour drive north, come by and visit us up here in Cleveland. And I just did the Ann Arbor show, the first show that I have done.
Well, actually,
almost
I think I go through Cleveland to get to Columbus. We should talk.
I am very serious. Give me a call and we'll set up a time to get together.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. And now we're going to join David Hess with Things Found in Old Books. And if you find things in old books, David, at the end of his presentation, will tell you what to do to share them with the rest of us, to send him pictures and descriptions so that he can feature them. And I don't know what David has for us this week, but it's bound to be interesting. It always is. So, David, we're glad to see you again this week.
Hello, this is David from the Bookman in Orange, California. Well, wishing you a hearty hello from Orange, California. So the broadcast is Things Found in Old Books. Today we are going to show you some stuff that I found in old books. So right off the bat here, we got this book, pretty common book. A lot of people might have already seen this one before, but it's Will Rogers. It's a 1935 book. And in the book, I found a couple of things. One was this little advertisement for a little Febreze air cooler. Now, there's no date on this thing. It's a little pamphlet. It opens up and shows you the little air cooler there and the fan and the people getting cool. And on the back, it tells you, it'll cool everywhere in the house kind of thing. So it predates the air conditioning you would have in your house. And when I went online to try to learn a little bit about this company and this product, the fact that they use the word Febreze as their name of the cooler, all I was able to get was Febreze air freshener that's still on the market today. And but just judging by the pictures, the artwork, it does look kind of from the 30s. It has that quality to it, either the late 40s or the early 40s or the late 30s. And it has a little address down here. It's hand stamped on there for somewhere in San Gabriel, California. You can get this, and it's a kind of a short little phone number. So the phone numbers kind of tell you that it was back there, and it's in mint shape. It's like, it's just been in the book forever, and it's beautiful, and it's a little something you would pick up at your local hardware store, and hopefully you would buy the Febreze air cooler and keep yourself cool in the 30s. I like it. Also in the same book, and this is not from the same era. It's a bookmark. It's for a radio show for Dr. McBurney. He'll lecture each Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. on the 100 greatest chapters of the Bible. And there's Dr. McBurney right there. And the reason that I found this especially interesting for me is that Dr. McBurney was a customer of mine for years at the Bookman. And he used to come in and buy large quantities of Louis L'Amour books and other assorted Westerns. He was into Westerns. He also had a book called The Search for the 12 Apostles, which he went and found on our shelves and brought to me, and I guess to prove that he was really Dr. McBurney. He was a nice guy. He's passed away since, but I like this guy, and it was really fun to find that unexpectedly in a book, and made me think of old Dr. McBurney, the Western reader. In this book here, Coronado's Children by Frank Dobie, which very famous Western writer. It was dated. This book is from 1931, but the thing I found inside is a little more current than that. It's a little what it is. It's a free pass to pass good, and they cross it out, put to good only once. And it's for the Mesa Theater in the heart of Costa Mesa, Orange County's fastest growing community. And it was void after June 5th, 1949, and it's signed by the manager. So in 1949, you got the Little Mesa Theater. And I can tell you this, that I believe Well, I haven't looked lately, so I can't tell you this, but I'm pretty sure the Mesa Theater is still there in Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa is not far from where I live right now. Anyway, so I think I'll go to the Mesa. Maybe I can. I don't think I can. It already expired. Anyway, lastly, Forever Rembrandt, and it is by Eugene Zador. And what Forever Rembrandt is, it's a opera. Now, I must say I'm not an opera buff, but that being said, I've never heard of the opera Forever Rembrandt. I don't know if it's on a lot of the tours that go around doing operas. But the interesting thing about this book, inside was this large photograph. We'll get a nice, good picture for you without all the glare. What it is a group of people standing around, and each person is holding their particular painting of Rembrandt, which is a copy of the Rembrandt's famous self-portrait. And they each are standing there holding their particular artwork and showing it off. So I don't know how, I'm sure it ties into the show. Maybe they had this promotion where people had to paint their Rembrandt to bring in for the show, for the opera. And there's no date on it, but the book is this particular book is, I don't know, on the 1939, and the people do kind of have that kind of 30s look to them. And I thought it was a fascinating little photograph, and fit in here with this little Rembrandt book for the Rembrandt opera, and I liked it. Well, that's all I have for today, and thank you for watching. If you have anything that you would like to share, just get a hold of me at oldbook@ebookman.com. oldbook@ebookman.com. Send a little blurb about what you found, and maybe a picture of, definitely a picture. And what I'll do is I'll share it here on the show. It would be fun to do, and I really look forward to hearing from you. And that's all I have for today. And thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week. This is David Hess saying goodbye from Orange County, California.
This past Sunday night, the Calhoun Forest Sunday Book Club met for their monthly meeting. Our book this month, was Nomadland by Jessica Bruder, which many of you know was made into a recent motion picture starring Frances McDormand. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress. It's really a wonderful movie. It's a little different than the book, of course, they always are. But we had a good discussion about the book. And one reason that we chose this book was because one of our members, while working as a volunteer at Yellowstone National Park back in 2007, a fellow volunteer lived something of this lifestyle. She wasn't as involved in these in the large gatherings as the folks in this novel are, but the premise of the whole thing is that there are a lot of people out there who, some due to various reasons, find themselves at retirement age with no income, no resources, perhaps no home, no family support, and take to the road in an RV or a camper, or sometimes their cars, going from job to job, such things as jobs in national parks, as host in campgrounds, as working in Amazon warehouses, which a lot of them did. Some of them working in the sugar beet harvest, which we didn't know how much of our sugar comes from sugar beets and not sugar cane. We found that out in the book. But this nomad lifestyle, almost a migrant lifestyle, but a family that develops from the people that they encounter and work with. Not exactly a solitary existence, but people going from place to place, many of them together, seeing the same people over and over again. Jessica Bruder immerses herself in this lifestyle. Her main character that she follows for about 3 years is a woman named Linda May. And Linda had held a number of jobs. She had some associate degrees in construction and contracting. She had worked as a contractor. She had worked as a truck driver. She had worked a number of jobs, but nothing long enough to say give her a pension. Many of these people had lost their homes in messy divorces or through foreclosure and the 08 crash, the Great Recession in 08. Various reasons that they were on the road. Most of them were retirement age, and it's a sad commentary on our economy that people, after working so hard and thinking they did everything right their entire adult lives, find themselves in this predicament. It's well worth reading. It's it is a little depressive to read. On the other hand, I think sometimes you read about people's problems and you think, okay, they're just waiting for things to improve, and they get back to what you might call the real world or the real economy. These folks pretty much see this as the way they're going to live out their lives and find ways to cope with it. It's an interesting book, and we're glad that we read it. And most of us had watched the movie, and Frances McDormand is incredible. She is not one of the characters from the book. She's sort of a compilation of a lot of the different folks. But there are characters in the movie from the book who are playing themselves. And Linda May is one of them. A man named Bob Wells, who has written about this lifestyle and has internet blogs and websites about it, and puts together excuse me, these annual meetings called the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, where people come together to learn more about the lifestyle and how to cope with it, and to meet people and to get job information. A lot of these work for Amazon warehouses during the fall season, especially like from September or October until right before Christmas. The conditions, and if you look on the Amazon website at their Camper Force job opportunities, most of which are full for this year, they don't make any beans about how difficult the job is. You have to be living in your vehicle. They suggest places for you to stay, but sometimes they're like an hour away from the Amazon facility. You have to be able to lift 49 pounds. You have to be able to be on your feet 10 to 12 hours a day. You have to do repetitive tasks over and over again. And their initial ads make it sound like this is a great opportunity to work with your friends, this kind of thing. But when you get right down to looking at the requirements of the job, they do not, they tell you the truth about how hard the job is. So if you read all the fine print, you might not want to do it. Jessica Bruder did these jobs. She traveled around with a lot of these folks for several seasons. She finally, after just going and visiting, she finally bought an RV and actually traveled. And so it's an instant. She had started by doing a Harper's Magazine article about this phenomenon, and then it was suggested that she do a book. And so she started with her friendship with Linda May as an entree into this lifestyle, into these communities, and her immersive journalism. It's kind of invasive that you're doing that, but I think she got. I think she got information on the lifestyle that was she could not have gotten in any other way, and it is I think, a sad commentary on our economy that so many people are finding it necessary to do this kind of thing in their old age. And 12 of us sat there last night talking about this, thinking how fortunate we all were that we were not in this position. But our book club is always an interesting discussion, and our next meeting will be December the 9th. It's our Christmas party. We hope to share some on video with you of what we do at our Christmas party, and we'll look forward to having you there. We always have a lot of food, and so I have a picture of of Sunday night's spread that we should have coming up. Everybody brings something. Now, this is snack food. This is not a meal, but you leave there thinking, I can't eat another bite. And our December one will actually be more of a meal, will be a heavier one. And then we have pictures. I have two pictures. This is half of the group, and then we have the other half of the group. So I guess you'll get to see us every month, same old folks. One of our members' husband is in the hospital, and she had to leave early. So we are hoping that he is doing better today. But as you know, we're an older group. Our ages range from mid-70s to late 80s. And it's a very active group. We have to get on our email and find out who's available when. So we do keep our things on our calendars, and it's a great group, and it's like another family for most of us, and something that we enjoy very much. And we will be reading for Christmas. We're going to be reading Mignon Ballard's book, No Word for Goodbye, which we interviewed Mignon on this show, and it has a partly Christmas theme for it because it includes Christmas at New Echota, the Cherokee capital, prior to the removal in 1832, and then in January we're going to be reading a book by a Georgia writer that I can't even remember the name of it. That's terrible, but we do have some good selections, and we're looking at things to do for the remainder of spring, and we'll be reporting on those every month as we get to them. So we're always look forward to book club and look forward to telling you about it every month. For book dealers to stay in business, we have to buy stock. That's just a fact of life. And so today, one of the things that Richard and I want to do is to tell you a little bit about some things that we have recently acquired that will become part of our stock and that we'll be listing online or taking to shows or making available to you out there. So, Richard, what have you found?
Well, Lee, a lot of people collect in certain categories, and I'm going to use an example: Disney as a category in the children's world, or Bookhouse Books as a category in the children's world, and they're more than just a title or an author or an illustrator. So here's an example of a book related, to go back to kind of what Larry was talking about today. This is a book related object. It is a set of Disney. I guess this would be, what would they called? They're called Library of Games, actually, is what this is called. And so these are little game cards, something like Rummy or some other kinds of games, card games, and there's rules for each one. This is a set of 6. It includes Mickey Mouse and Pinocchio, Donald Duck, Bambi, 3 Little Pigs, and Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And it comes in a little sleeve. This is sealed up, so I can't, and I actually have others, but you just take it out and you can play the card. And this is card games. There's also a set of these related, similar but not Disney, that have like paper clips or rubber bands and office supplies. I've seen them like that. Mm-hmm. So the second item I have, Lee, is this set of books. Oops, I can see the feed is dropped again. I could see it myself that time. So I'm going to just keep going and listen. interrupt me, Alan. So in fact, here's a set of children's books. I found this at a local. Yeah, it's. I can see the hesitation in the image. I found this at a little antique store locally not too long ago. This is the other end, and basically, there are three different um, series. This one is Betty Lee, and then the other one is Jean Mary. It and the third one is. Whoops, that's not a good copy. Nancy Pembroke. This one is Nancy Pembroke in Nova Scotia. So it's and they came in this little box all together. I've never seen it. It's called The Best Books in the World, um, a choice library popular with boys and girls. Um, and again, I
But
have no idea where they
it
came
doesn't
from
look
or
like
why.
books that we're familiar with.
No, no, they're not well-known series. I mean, the Jean Marie, or Jean Mary in Virginia. I'd never heard of these series before, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. It's a takeoff on the Nancy Drew or that type of thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it says Jean Mary Willard, healthy, lovable, popular, with all the go getting give get get giddy vid get get. How the hell do you say that? Gett. Go giddy vividness of the modern girl. I've never even seen that phrase before. Honest to God, it says,
So,
yeah, anyways,
so what age
it's
group do you think this is aimed at?
it's juvenile, teen, young teen, because it's, Betty Lee is a freshman, Betty Lee is a sophomore, so
Okay.
it's high school specific. Um, and it's the art is nice. I mean, it's exceptional, but it's okay. Um, it's in Betty Lee is the same thing. Here's Betty Lee as a senior. It doing a masquerade ball. I mean, it has to be Southern, right? You know,
Well,
I
it said
mean, in the North,
Virginia.
yeah, and nobody, and trust me, there's no Betty Lees in New England. That I'm
Yeah, we
pretty
do like
sure.
our double names. We do like our
Yeah,
double names.
yes. So I think it has a bit of a southern flair, and it's specific. The only, the only thing is the Peggy Pembroke there's a college Nancy Pembroke college maid. Now I don't know if that means she had a maid in college, or she was by the time she got to college she was considered a maiden. I don't know, but
What's the
anyway.
date on those?
Got to be 40s, I think. It's they're published by World Syndicate Publishing. Oh, 1930. I'm sorry, 1930.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It it so you know, I the World Syndicate Publishing companies that was out of Cleveland and New York. Um,
Mm,
and and they're fairly, I mean, when you look under the dust jacket, they're fairly, this has got gold on
yeah.
stamping on the spine and on the cover. Um, and the end papers are nice and clean and white. The text blocks are a little yellow, which means the paper was less of a quality in the text block. But it's bound nicely. I mean, the Wizard of Oz books were made cheaper than these were, I think, in
Yeah.
some respects. So. Um,
Well,
but
that's a
those are
neat
yeah,
find. That is a nice. That's a nice unusual thing to have run across.
yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I'll have it. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know who to sell it to, but I get fascinated by things like this because I
Yeah.
think they're really unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
what do
that
you
is
have,
good.
Lee?
Well, yeah, I have. Oh, let's see here. I bought grouping of some African American music related items. And one of them is a well-known, this is John Work's Folk Songs of the American Negro, John Frederick Work. And this is, as best I can tell, the first edition, which was self-published by the Works. The later editions were done by a national publishing company, but the first one was self-published. And so I think, based on others that I've had, that's what this one is. There was also in this same one a little booklet about the Cleveland Colored Gospel Quintet. And it includes the history of the quintet, but it also includes testimonials from the members of it. And that's kind of an interesting little piece as well. And also included with that was a postcard. Let me take it out of the sleeve so it won't be glare. Of the Williams Jubilee Singers. And the Williams Jubilee Singers were a pretty well-known group. And this is an advertising postcard of theirs from 1917 with a picture of the group on the front and a little bit about the group on the back. And this one, I think they were on a European tour on this one. And so there were some other items in there, just kind of random things. There is a University of California concert in 1941 by the WPA, Northern California WPA Negro Chorus. And these are mostly spirituals. And one thing I found interesting at the bottom is, let's see if I can get you, well, I'm not sure that's going to pick up too well. There we go. That's a little bit better. A note at the bottom saying that if you have children that, well, I'll read what it says. Those in charge of children who cannot be kept quiet during the recital will be requested to take them from the theater. So keep those kids quiet. But that was an interesting, a lot of the songs, like I said, are spirituals. Some that you would probably recognize: Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Deep River, Go Down Moses, Ezekiel Saw the Wheel. And they closed with Old Man River from the musical Showboat. And then, let's see, there is, and I'm not sure, there was a concert by the Hampton Institute Choir, the Hampton Institute in Virginia. And Nathaniel Dett was a very well-known African-American conductor, composer, music director. And the concert does not have a date on it, and there's nothing but just the cover to the program. I don't know, one of these random bits of paper. But there also was included a biography of Dett, which was done right after he died while on a USO tour in, I think, what was the date? The date of it, let's see, 1943. And this is a brief biography of him, which is kind of coming apart at the spine, but it's a lot of interesting information on Dett. And then, not part of this lot, but a separate one, is a copy of a magazine called The Musical Observer. And I bought it because of the article of African American folk song by Maud Cooney Hare, whose father, Philip Wright Hare, was a well-known civil rights activist. She was a musicologist and an activist herself. This is from 1917. This is from 1917, and she wrote one of the books that she wrote was a biography of her father, and that I've had a couple of copies of, but she wrote extensively about African American folk songs and the contribution of those songs to the musical history of the country. And so this is, there are other articles in here too, but that's what I personally bought it for. So those are some things that I have gotten recently, plus a little booklet on the Hampton Institute. That is, there we go, the work of Hampton. So that's what I've had come across my desk lately, and some interesting material for me to me, and I'm looking forward to getting that out there.
So just a couple quick follow-up thoughts on your conversation. One is this past weekend, I think NPR had a new story on the Jubilee Singers. I didn't catch the whole thing, and I've got to try to figure out which program it came off of.
I know. Someone told me yesterday that happened, and I didn't hear it, and I'd like to figure that out as well.
Yeah. Well, if you go usually on the website, you can backtrack programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is, are you familiar with the Hutchinson family singers?
Yeah, I have heard of them. I don't have a lot of familiarity, but I've heard of them.
Well, I'll share just quickly.
Really?
They're actually from New Hampshire and Massachusetts. The primary family is out of Milford, New Hampshire, where actually I lived at one point and had a store, right in Amherst, next to Milford. They were extremely popular. They were one of the very first troubadour families in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They go back to the early 1840s when they first started singing together. By the Civil War, they were very popular, and there's a short little story about they were singing at a Union camp, and one of the generals at the camp wasn't happy with their abolitionist and their temperance songs, and so he basically kicked them out and said, "You can't sing here anymore." And word got to Lincoln at a cabinet meeting, and he asked them. He said, "Well, let me listen to what they have to sing." And they came and performed for Lincoln at the White House. And he's quoted to have turned to someone and said, "I see no problem with their music. They should sing at all my camps, union camps." So,
wow.
so that's the short little story about that.
Yeah, I need to be on the lookout for them.
Yeah, I actually have for years collected the material because they were so local. And they had 3 generations of family members who sang.
Mm-hmm.
So they sang for a very long time. There's several books on them, one by one of the family and others done biographies of the family. And the Revels, which is a singing group out of Boston back in the 90s, produced a show using their music to tell their story in musical form. It was beautifully done, and so they're an interesting group. I mentioned them because I'm familiar.
Yeah, we're back to regional collecting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Back to our long discussion on regional collecting last week.
Yes. Well, and in fact, for me, they were early abolitionists, early temperance, and early women rights, people. And they would go to different events, and their music often had those themes in that. So that's what's made them a little more interesting. And that introduced me to the broader folk music and the African and Negro music that came out of that period as well.
I have a temperance songbook. I wonder if any of the Hutchinson's stuff, I need to look and see.
Yeah, if it was done in the 1840s, 50s, or 60s,
I'm not
it's
sure
very likely.
I'm not sure of the dates on it, but I'll have to look at that and see. Yeah, because that's something else I've got. Well, we have to keep finding new stuff, and I also have a stack of menus I've acquired lately that I think are going to be fun to take a look at. So anyway, Well, thank you for being with us again this year. Whatever it is, this week.
This month.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? And we'll look forward to what we're going to do next. And I think we're probably ready to close.
Yeah, and I'm going to be back on the road next week. Going to be back. I'm back on the road. I've told Alan a little bit about my schedule, but I've got about 5 or 6 weeks in a row where I'm going to be doing shows. So
that's
it'll
good.
be.
Well, I'm going on the road, not to shows, but I'm going to visit Mary Kay Watson week after next for a few days, and so I'm going to be traveling up 81 and 77 up that way. And if you know of places up that way to stop and look at things, let me know.
81, 77.
81, 77, and
is
79.
Is that West Virginia? Yeah, that's what I thought. I do actually. Beckley, I'm very familiar with Beckley.
Okay.
We'll
talk some more next week about places I should take I've been as far as Elkins, but no further up than that. So
all right,
should be a fun trip. Mary Kay and I are going to sit on the porch and knit, and Alan wants us to do a little video of us sitting on the porch.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So that'll be fun. Okay. Well, everybody out there, thank you for tuning in this week. This has been Rare Book Cafe, the Book Lovers Rendezvous, and we hope you join us every week. Leave us your comments. Let us know where you're listening from. Give us suggestions, and we like compliments or complaints or things you'd like to hear us discuss or people you'd like to see on Rare Book Cafe. So that's all for this week. I'm Lee Linn from the Ridge Books in Calhoun, Georgia, and I have with me Richard Mori, our road warrior, who's going to be on the road for several weeks and will be tuning in with us from there. And so for this week, we're glad to have you, and bye for now.
Take care.